Hello, everybody. This is Alexey Kovyazin, president of Firebird Foundation. And together, I will be presenting a very interesting topic together with Edson Gregorio. Hello, Edson.
Hello, Alexey. It's a pleasure to be here. And let's talk about migration, Firebird Essentials.
Yes. So this is really interesting and very important topic. And we just need to make clear for all Firebird users how easy to move to Firebird 5. And that's why today we will speak about the fastest way of migration to Firebird 5. However, the fastest way, as you know, probably can be not the most correct way. But we decided to present the way which is typically used to migrate to Firebird 5. It means that first we will perform all steps necessary for the migration with the hope that the result will be enough for the migration. Of course, in the end of the migration, there could be some problems. So that's why we will discuss the migration in the following way. First, today, practical migration steps. After that, we will discuss possible errors, possible problems, which can be in your Firebird database, but also it's possible that there are no errors and your database is just perfectly ready. In the third video, we will describe how to fix these errors, with possible errors, and we'll give you a lot of tips and tricks how to do it. And in the fourth episode, we will be just speaking with you in the session of questions and answers. So stay tuned. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to Firebird SQL channel and to the Edson's channel. See in the description of video links for the channels. Okay, let's start. On this slide, you can see we have listed 6 necessary steps, including check for the problems in the end, which usually are necessary to migrate database to Firebird 5. So let's consider each step in details.
So the first step is to have both instances of Firebird installed in your PC. You need at least the Firebird 5 that you are going to migrate to, and the version of the Firebird you are coming from. And then, for example, if you want to have 2 versions like Firebird 2.5 and Firebird 5, you have to install it in 2 different paths and ports. So in Windows, we have the binary inst_svc on the root path of Firebird space I space minus name, and then the name of the instance you are going to install at your PC. And the same thing you will need to do at the Firebird 5. You are going to have 2 instances of Firebird in your PC, and then you need to change the port at firebird.conf remote service port, and then put different ports at each parameter. In Linux, it's a little bit different because we also need to change the firebird.conf for sure, but we need to install it with a different path when you are going to run the install.sh script. The version 2.5 you need to put at the full path /opt/firebird, and at the version 3 and above you will need to say what's the path you want to install it with the -path parameter, saying the path you want to install it. And then at the end you need to enable the service of each version of Firebird, and then you need to change the port as you would do it on Windows at firebird.conf and then remote service port.
In the end of this step, so when you will have installed 2 instances on the same computer, you will be prepared to perform backup on 1 instance, like on 2.5, and after that restore on the new instance, on the Firebird 5.0 in this example for Windows. As you can see on this slide, in order to specify what instance to be used in the backup operation and in restore operation, you need to specify the address and port of the installed instance. In these examples, you can see that localhost 3050 is for Firebird 2.5 and localhost 3055 is for Firebird 5. Also, it is very important to store detailed logs of backup and restore in order to review errors. Normally, this operation, backup and restore, will be repeated several times. And as a result, you will need to see every time what was the difference, error or no errors, for every attempt. That's why you need 2 instances, and that's why you need detailed logging. Okay, so as a result, we will have the database in the format of Firebird 5. Many people think that this is the only step in the migration, but actually, of course, it is not. So let's continue with further steps.
About the compatibility, what can you expect about migration to Firebird 5, for example, in your application? For sure, you are going to have some adaptations in your application, but you can decrease the number of changes with some parameters at database. For example, the first one, you can create a trigger to change the data types that Firebird 5 is going to deliver to your application just to the old version of Firebird. For example, the new data types of Firebird 5, like int128, they do not exist at the oldest version. And then you can create a trigger that's going to change this kind of data type to the oldest version. It's not necessary to adapt your application in this case. Okay, the second one is the data type compatibility parameter and the full time zone at the firebird.conf. You can change it to put the version you are coming from, and then the behavior of your Firebird is going to be like the old version. For example, the version 2.5 or 3. And then the third one is the Wirecrypt. You can make it be always enabled. And then you are not going to have some changes in your application because it's the same way the old version was working.
Here we have a text of trigger, which you need to create in your database. This trigger will work on connect. So at every connection, this trigger will execute these commands: set bind of integer 128 to legacy and dec float to legacy. And it will essentially make your application, make your old application, which uses the old FB client DLL, think that it is still working with the same data types as in Firebird 2.5. In Firebird conf, we need to put these parameters. So in our example, we are migrating database 2.5. So we need to set up data type compatibility to 2.5. Default time zone in this example is America, Sao Paulo, but also we can put the time zone with the numeric value, as you can see on the slide. And Wirecrypt should be set to enable it in order to use, as had sunset, to use old FB client from 2.5. So with these changes, your application should connect to Firebird 5 database and work normally. I hope so.
So, but UDF, if you are using some UDF at the older version, you still can use it at the Firebird 5. It's disabled by default, but you can enable it easily. So the first step is to create the folder UDF in your root path of Firebird. At the second step, you need to go to the firebird.conf, change the UDF access to restrict UDF, and then copy your DLS or .su in Linux to the folder UDF with some dependencies if you need. So how can you see about the dependencies?
Yes, so this is very often question because many people see that it's obvious that you need to create UDF, put restrict, but when they copy the old UDF files, DLLs, for example, from Firebird 2.5 or Firebird 3 to Firebird 5, they don't work. Why? Because these files also, they have some dependencies. For example, even the standard UDF, fbudf.dll, has dependencies. And if it was compiled with different ICU or different MS VCRT DLLs, they should be copied also. But what files should be copied? You cannot, copy all Windows or all Linux. There are very useful tools to see the dependencies of the specific DLL or SO in Linux. On Linux, you just type Linux LDD, and after name of your UDF, and you will see on the working system, of course, the working system, what UDFs you need, what dependencies, what libraries you need to copy, and you can just move it to the system, to the Firebird 5 instance. On Windows, you can use the following package, call it dependencies. Also, you can see what DLL depends on. After that, you need to restart Firebird and perform some tests. So some select which uses UDF, and it should work normally.
The biggest part of case, you are going to have some problem with oldest version of Firebird client library. So FB client and GDS is going to be a problem for you if you are using the oldest version. And then to work properly, you need to at least use the 2.5.9 version or 3.0 to be able to connect to your Firebird 5. At least this. But for sure, you need to use always the most recent version of the FB client and GDS to be able to have the best performance and best experience with your Firebird 5. So these options is just to make a fast migration, just to be able to put it at the version 5 fastly. But for sure, again, you need to use the FB client at the version 5.
Right. And just some examples of problems which could arise from using of old version of FB client. For example, if you have FB client DLL from 2.0 or even 1.5 on some client, your Firebird 2.5 could work normally, or more or less normally. There will be some disconnect errors in Firebird log, but all will be more or less fine. But if you will try to use these clients with Firebird 5, they will not work, or they will produce more problems like unstable connections, disconnections, and so on. For the fast migration, 2.5 or 3.0 will be fine.
And then how can you say what's the version your clients are using of the FB client or GDS? You can make a select at the MON attachments, looking at the client version, and then you are going to see each connection, what's the version of the FB client you are using. And then if you are using the wrong version, you can see it easily by this select.
So if you will migrate from 2.5 to Firebird 5, probably you will notice that there is a big news in terms of user management. Since Firebird 3, there are two user managers in Firebird. One is legacy user manager, the same as it was in 2.5, and another is SRP, user manager. As a side effect, it is possible that there will be two users, two sysdba with two different passwords. However, for practical migration, to make your application work with Firebird 5 as soon as possible, we will consider how to use legacy user manager in Firebird Conf and how to migrate users. Of course, if you use only sysdba, you don't need to learn how to copy users from old version of Firebird to the 5, to the most recent. So just create this SDBR. But if you have a lot of users, take a look into the folder in the Firebird installation, which is called misc /upgrade/version 3.0. There are two files, and one of them is script to copy users from old security database to the new one. So it will economize, it will save you a lot of time. After that, you need to make the certain changes with legacy user manager in Firebird Conf.
And then if you are going to use the legacy user manager, you can use these configurations, these settings of firebird.conf. Auth server, you can put the SRP 256 SRP and legacy auth. Why? Because this is the order that Firebird is going to look for your user and password to authenticate. And then user manager, the same thing, SRP, and let the legacy user manager at the second part, because Firebird is going to try to authenticate at the first one, SRP, and after at the legacy user manager. And the third setting is the wirecrypt. You can set it to enable if you are using the old version of FB client, and if you want to use the SRP and the legacy, it's better to use this parameter as enabled.
Okay, so after all these steps, we made our database to work on the Firebird 5. So it accepts connections, it performs queries, it supports UDFs, it works with old FB client DLL. It also has settings for data time and data type compatibility with 2.5 or 3.0. But is it enough? Is it, like job is done and metadata is totally correct and we just, can celebrate these migration step? And actually, no. The problem is the following. So after the migration with backup and restore and with some compatibility settings, Firebird will work and will support your database. So you can continue to work as it was. However, there are some could be some hidden problems when you will try to change the metadata which are not compatible with Firebird 5. You can ask how it is possible that the backup and restore did its job, and database you set as earlier in Firebird 5 format, but why it is not 100% compatible? It is explained in the following way. So every compiled object like stored procedure, trigger, view, and so on, computed by fields, has a thing called binary language representation. So when you are putting something into the stored procedure, it actually being compiled into the binary language representation and stored in blob in system tables. And when backup does its job, like backup and restore, backup does not change the binary language representation. It persists as it was in 2.5. For example, in our example, it was in 2.5, it transfers intact to the 5.0. And Firebird 5.0 know how to execute this binary language representation. So it means that your stored procedures will work. However, once you will try to change it, it will not allow you to change even a byte. Because in case of change, you need to completely change the text of stored procedure or other object to be compatible, 100% compatible with Firebird 5. Let's see with the example how it could be, how you will have such problem in example.
Here we have a database with some problems at the migration. We are going to make the backup and restore at this database, and we are going to see that the backup and the restore is going to be fine. We are not going to have any errors. I have here installed the Firebird 2.5 and 5 at different ports, and I'm going to make the backup at the Firebird 2.5. Okay, let's enter the path. G back minus B minus V minus Y, and then I'm going to say what's the path I want to save the log. So copy and paste, and then bkp.log, and then I can say here what's the path of my database at the version 2.5. But I need to put the localhost slash 3025, it's the port of my Firebird 2.5. Double dot, I want to say what's the path of my database. So I want to copy it, to paste, and then I need to take off the double quotes and put it at the beginning of the command. And then I want to say what's the path of my FBK. So I want to put it here, FBK, and authentication minus user sysdba minus password master key. Okay, let's see if it's going to work well. It's creating. Okay, let's see the logs, and here at the logs we can see that it's finished well, no problems. So let's go to the restore, and I'm going to use almost the same command but at another path, at the path of the Firebird 5. So let's come back, enter to the Firebird 5, and let's see the same command but a little bit different. For example, I need to change it from B to C to create a database, and then here the name of the log is RST, okay, and here I want to copy the path of the FBK, and I'm going to erase it because it's going to be the first parameter after the log. Paste it here, and then the path of the new database at the port of the Firebird 5, the same location, but here I'm going to use the database 50.fdb authentication, and then okay, let's see it. It's creating.
Yeah.
Almost there. Okay, it's ready. Let's see the log, and we have here the end of the restore with no error. So it seems like a ready database at the version 5, but it's not. We have some problems here.
Let's open the database which we just created, just restored in Firebird 5, and it looks like everything is fine. Here we have some procedures, and let's run the procedure like it should work in 2.5. So let's do some operation. Yeah, so we have some command. Please run it, and it is fine. It works. It works, and like it was working in 2.5. So hooray! Not really. But at some moment, we will need to change this stored procedure. So let's try to change it. Here, let's add like one space. No real change. And try to create the stored procedure. As you can see, the compilation failed. Why it is failed? Let's take a look on the source code. Here you can see the conversion time step now. In 2.5 it worked perfectly. And in the BLR from 2.5, executed by 5, also it worked perfectly. But once we tried to change the source code of this storage procedure, it stopped to work. As you can see in this database, we have several errors, several typical errors. This database also will be available in the description of the video, so you can download and try it yourself. And there are several possible problems like this. In the metadata of old versions to be migrated to Firebird 5. But why there is a difference? Let's try to see the actual binary language representation for it.
And then to see the BLR of this procedure, we can make this select with the RGB procedure BLR, and then we can select it and see what's the value of this field. And this is the binary representation of this procedure at the database.
Of course, it is not a human readable text, and the only thing we can say looking at binary language representation that it is different or not different from Firebird 2.5 and 5. But believe me, they are different. And when Firebird 5 will recompile the sources, it will create the binary language representation compatible exactly for Firebird 5. And when in the future, when you will migrate to Firebird 6, there will be the same process for the next version and so on. So this is the basic explanation why there could be problem in the database which passed successfully backup and restore. In the next video, we will consider the examples of such problems, how to identify it, possible problem, and how to resolve it. Of course, it is possible that your database does not have problems. So it means that you are ready. So in the next video, you will see how to check everything is fine and go straight to Firebird 5 without delay.